Ready to get started here. Thank you everyone for joining us. Quick housekeeping items to begin. So make sure you're muted in our online on Teams, and then type any questions that you have into the chat. We will have a Q&A at the end, and I will keep track of questions in the chat. Ones we can't answer for you in the chat, we will ask the speakers at the end. So you also have an opportunity at the end to ask any questions out loud. But again, as this is going, we will move on from speaker to speaker, presenter to presenter. So we won't ask questions after each individual speaker goes. So make sure you're muted and then type any questions you have into the chat. We have a couple moderators there in the chat to make sure that your questions get answered. All right. So now to introduce our first speaker, everyone knows that you need a real estate agent when you're buying or selling a home. And what you might not realize is how important it is to have a great real estate agent, someone who is in your corner that is going to fight for you, go to war for you, and make your life easier in ways that you might not understand. In addition to that, someone who's not going to rip you off and truly has your best interest in mind. And not to disparage anybody in the industry, but not everybody does it the way that Aida does it. So it's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Aida Tezera. Aida?
Hello, everyone. Here we are for first-time home buyer seminar. Been waiting for this thing for the past couple of months, and it's nice to be here. To just introduce myself, first, my name is Aida. Been in real estate 2014. I'm founder of Gojjo Realty, and all in all. So just wanted to do a heads up. What we wanted to talk about is why buying a house. There's 5 reasons that I always talk to my buyers: stability, home cost, no rental increase, and your mortgage payment remain the same every time. Second one is owner equity. That means you own your own house, and every annually you received up to like 5% profits out of your property. Tax deduction and contributing control on your property. And most of the time, what a lot of people they don't know about is wealth, how you can get your generational wealth. What kind of home should you buy? It can be starter home like condo, townhome, small single home, or a duplex. What is the home buying process? So Peter will talk to you about pre-approval and how to your final financing, how that is going to work after I'm done with my presentation. But all in all, it's I'll talk about how to find your realtor, finding your home, make an offer. That's like the big thing, and also do your inspection and to get you on the table to do your closing. How do you find a realtor? First, let's define what a realtor is. Real estate agent and realtors need to complete a certain amount of education and be licensed practice real estate. So that means they have to be licensed in order for them to take you out and showing your property. So most of the time, how you can get your realtor is it can be a referral from friends and family, or you might know someone, or internet. It might be overwhelmed, but you can search that and you can read the review and all that. The way that to know that this agent is active, you can go to NAR, the National Association of Realty website, and you can check if that agent is active or not. What to look for in a realtor. One is experience, because there are over 5 million real estate agent professional in the US. So because of that, you know, you have to pick and choose who is experts. Experts is like, you know, how long they've been in the being a realtor, who they working associate with, the brokerage and the team that they're associating with. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I keep touching. Trustworthy, it can go both way. The agent and the buyer or the listing agent as well. So yeah. So when I'm talking about trustworthy is if the agent is really watching out for your interest or for their own interest. That means that are they really trying to make money out of you by selling you a crappy property, or, you know, they're looking out for you. And the other way around, as in the actual buyer or the client, make sure that you're also trustworthy toward your realtor, because the realtor are the one that who has the license, experience, and know what to do in a certain, you know, that's their life, like that, their full-time job. And also a few things that the client do that losing trust from their realtor, getting a lot of information from friends and family that don't have no idea what real estate is. That one. The other thing is you need to know that, or the agent should have a knowledge about the market, what's going on. Right now, we are the opposite side of flipping the market, you know, from the seller market to the buyer market. If the agent know how to help the buyers or the to sell their property, the listing the property as well. Testimonial is one thing that I really want you to check. One is for people to, you go and search this agents, you know, what kind of feedback that they have online. Check the online review. Keys to find your home. Know what you want. That's the biggest thing that we have an issue. Know what you want, and then list them, must have, and then nice to have. And there is a template that I built that you guys, I can send you guys information about that. If you go and text my list to 833-512-5130. Again, text my list 833-512-512 through 5130, and I can send you what to you know, must like and must want, must need, you wanted it, or like nice to have. The other thing is location. Make sure that that location is close to your work, because we live in, you know, an area that might need that for winter. At school, even if you don't have kids, make sure that to search that if it is a good school district, because that can help you to add equity in your property in the long run. Keep in mind, when you go through this showing, looking at property and all that, you will learn a lot of different stuff. So your must want or you know, nice to have, it might be changed. So I want you to review your the list that you are going to be writing when you're about to go and find your home. And stay on the budget. Me and Peter, we always talk about this thing, budget, budget, budget. Don't go beyond your budget. Like, you know, your friend might have a nice house, but don't let the shiny stuff to trick you. What do you need to make an offer? So pre-approval, it comes from your lender. From me, will come from Mr. Peter for custom mortgage. You know, how you can sign your agency. I really recommend this thing. I always take client out. They decided don't want it to sign agency agreement. Agency agreement means that I have a fiduciary loyalty to you to provide you or to give you information. Anything that I see, I have to explain what it is. Let's say if I see a crack in the foundation, if you sign that paperwork, I'll be able to give you that information just because that the loyalty that I have as an agent. Regardless, as an agent, we should give it to you, that information, but that will protect you for a lot of stuff. And I'm going to talk about purchase agreements and earnest money. That's the one thing that a lot of people ask, like, why do I have to do earnest money? Why I do this and that? So writing a purchase agreement, it is included your earnest money, but it has a lot of stuff, your closing day, your inspection contingency, and all that stuff. But earnest money is the money that you provide to the seller at the time of the writing your purchase agreement. And that purchase agreement, if it went through, the earnest money will go toward your closing cost or for your down payment. The only time that you don't get it back is if you just cancel the transaction for unnecessary reason. You won't be able to get that earnest money back. The purchase agreement, when you and your agent, as a client, as a buyer, whenever you write a purchase agreement, make sure that to review that purchase agreement in detail, because there is over 20 to 30 pages of documents. Once you sign it, you are binding with that. And after all this happened, signed, that you sign it, the seller has some stuff that they wanted to come back and negotiate. So there's always a negotiate table. So negotiation can be with closing time, might be money, whatever the case that is. So as soon as you guys figure it out that, then you go to the next step. The next step is for an inspection. An inspection. Most of the time, an inspection, I always recommend, you have to inspect your house before you purchase. It has to be a licensed inspector who knows what he or she is doing. It costs up to, from $400 to $600. It gives you a detailed report. You go through that with the inspector, and then you decided which area that you wanted to ask to be fixed or to replace, or whatever the case, the reason is. And then almost most of the time, they might gonna fix half, and they will fix the whole thing. It depends. It might be a lucky seller or a lucky buyer, or they would not fix, but they will give you a concession for closing costs. Or another thing that they can do is they drop the price of the property. And next one, what does closing included? This is the fun part. This part is that I love, because one, My clients are like excited to move in a brand new property that they've been waiting for the past 30 days or 45 days. So we do a walkthrough. Walkthrough, it's for me, I have my flashlight, we check everything from the wall, we open the windows, close, and all that kind of stuff. And the title company and the lender usually will give you what you're gonna bring to the closing, and that is your pay buying cost, and then you sign the actual paperwork, and then we get the key. That is like my deal of the whatever. It makes me feel good. I feel like part of my family. Sorry, my microphone is like touching it. I apologize. And then with that said, I have an ebook that anytime I do this presentation, I wanted to send out to you guys. So if you want my ebook that has everything from what I talk, what I just say, this is just like a little part of it, but it gives you a lot of rundown, what to do, what to not to do, what, all the process step by step. So please text ebook to 833-512-5130. Again, text to get an ebook 833-512-5130. So our next speaker will be Andrew. Thank you.
Great job, Ida. I didn't get a chance to introduce myself at the beginning. My name is Djerf. I am a loan originator with Custom Made Mortgages. And Ida is one of our realtor partners. She does a phenomenal job. She doesn't like talking in front of people. She doesn't like being on camera. She doesn't realize what a good job she does. However, you have to step outside your comfort zone to grow. And that is outside of her comfort zone, just being in front of people talking on camera. However, what is in her comfort zone is anything involving a real estate transaction. So a lot of times people think what realtors do is they find a property for you and that's it. What they do really is they find the right property for you in the right location with the right price. Then they negotiate your offer, your PA. All right, they handle issues that come up in the process. They handle earnest money. They handle the final inspection, the walkthrough. They handle your utilities that need to be transferred on the day of the transaction. They handle homesteading. Realtors wear a lot of different hats. So us as loan originators get to do the financial side of the transaction to make their lives just a little bit easier. So I just wanted to give you a little look into what Ida really does and what she offers, and she does it with integrity, and she really does a great job making sure that her clients are taken care of. Our next speaker is Andrew, as Ida had said. Andrew is a financial coach. He is the CEO of Expanding Wallets. And my spiel on Andrew is that some of the best life lessons can be learned through others' experiences. Right? You don't have to necessarily experience it yourself to learn the lesson and benefit from it. And Andrew does that better than anybody that I know. He takes the things that he's been through, applies it into a great course, and using those experiences, he helps you build wealth, and he helps you build generational wealth, but also just elevate your life. So you have the skills, you have your financial situation, you have your job, and what a coach does, whether it's in sports or in life, is he brings you to another level. He helps you elevate your status. So without further ado, Andrew.
All right, can everyone hear me? Okay, great. Get this slide up here. Actually, before I start, I actually want to thank and really give some recognition to Ida and Nick and Peter Djerf, who invited me to speak here, because you usually don't see a financial empowerment coach at one of these, but they not only care about you getting into a property, but also that you prosper once you're in that property, in that home. And today I'm actually going to be focusing more on what happens once you have a property. and how that affects you in building wealth. It's actually not as hard as you probably think to buy a property and acquire it, but there's a lot of difficulty. Once you do get a property, there's a lot of financial responsibility. And so I'm going to actually share some things that you probably don't hear in homeownership workshops. And this is a study that was done by Zillow that found that 75% of home buyers actually regretted something about their new home. And the top regret that was cited was that the home actually required more work or maintenance than was expected. Now, you combine that with 63% of Americans are now living paycheck to paycheck. This is huge because right now we've seen record high inflation, especially this year. And so it is extremely important that we have good financial skills. And I'll never forget, after buying my very first property, a coworker said to me that that was the stupidest thing I could ever do, was to buy a property. Because at only 24 years old, he said, "You're not ready for the responsibility of owning a home." Now, at that time, I was pissed, okay, when he said that. But after looking at these statistics and owning a property for 9 years, I understand where he's coming from, okay? Now, while homeownership is a big responsibility, there was something that this coworker didn't know about me, and that was my history. This is a picture of me and my mom. My mom actually came to America in her early 30s, and she came here working $4 an hour. She eventually paid her way through school to become a nurse. And growing up, I literally watched my mom work over 100 hours a week to take care of our family here in America and family back in Jamaica. So because of that, I always wondered, how long could my mom go like this? It was extremely unhealthy and also just not a good lifestyle to live, very imbalanced, right? And so at 15 years old, I started to self-educate myself on finances and building wealth, because these are skills that were not taught in school. And so I started by reading books. And eventually I realized how important real estate was to building wealth. And so I convinced my mom to get a real estate license. So at 16 years old, my mom became a real estate license, and I started learning about real estate from her. By 18 years old, I decided to get my own real estate license this summer before starting college for engineering. Unfortunately, that was probably one of the worst times to get a real estate license, because it was right before the Great Recession started. I saw some of the darkest days in real estate during that time. And I saw a lot of my friends' families lose their properties to foreclosure. And it taught me a lot of lessons about finances that, again, were not taught in school. And I made a goal for myself that after I graduated from college, I would buy a property within a year, and I would never lose that property to foreclosure, unlike what my coworker thought. Now, I'm going to give a quick disclaimer, because I am going to show some actual numbers from the property that I bought to illustrate some points that I've been talking about, as well as to show you what's possible. All right. And again, this is just for educational purposes. So this is the cost, the first year cost to acquire the duplex that I bought. And it's a duplex, which means it's a multifamily. You can live in one unit and you can rent out the other. And that was the plan, or you can rent out all of it. But for me, it was living in one unit and renting out the other. But this is the cost to acquire the duplex versus the updates and repairs for that very first year. And what I want to show you is, look at the cost that it was to acquire, $7,000 versus almost $22,000 spent on updates and repairs, including a $6,000 unexpected repair due to a leak in a bathroom. Okay, so it cost me 3.3 times more on updates and repairs versus the cost. All right. And so this is what a lot of homeowners are probably feeling now, and unfortunately, probably not prepared for. Now, let's talk about the wealth building, because that's what everyone's here for, right? So was it worth it to spend that amount of money for this duplex? Well, let's talk about some of the benefits that the duplex gave me. It gave me an additional source of income from the rent I collected. Multifamily units, unlike single family, actually offer additional tax benefits such as depreciation on the rental units, as well as claiming expenses on those rental units. Now, let's talk about price appreciation, because this is one that's most common when we talk about real estate. I bought the property for only $170,000, and now it's worth $425,000. All right. And here's the last piece when we talk about wealth building. Okay. Even with really conservative numbers, this property will be worth over $1 million by the time I retire. So imagine that you got a cash producing asset, you significantly reduced your tax liability, and you locked in your first $1 million towards retirement at only 24 years old. Now, what I'm going to share with you and what I teach is very important. And this is why, if you look at these numbers, and when I made this purchase, this is why what I teach is so important and can actually transform lives for generations. So, a few things I didn't mention, okay? I was underpaid by 18%. So when people talk about feeling inflation, when you're underpaid by that much, you also feel the impact, okay? The cash flow, it all works out the same, whether it's your expenses or your income that's reduced. And so having these skills was actually what made me able to actually purchase a home at the age I did and also afford it. So what are the 3 skills that you have to master? These are the 3 skills you have to master. You got to master being able to manage your money, debt, and credit. And I use the word master because at this point in time, where we are in the economy and where inflation is, and also where we're heading, those who really master these skills are going to come out ahead, because there will be many opportunities that come up. 1 second. Your computer. Okay. Okay, the computer is going crazy for a second there. Is that what it is? Y'all know I'm Jamaican, right? He said I was talking too fast. But you got to really master these skills. And if you think about it, it makes sense, right? If you want to build wealth, okay, you either have to have your own money or you've got to use someone else's money. And if you're going to use someone else's money, they're going to want to see what your credit looks like, right? And so that's where these skills are really, really important. Now, let me go back to one more thing, because this is not just in relation to buying real estate, but in building wealth in general, okay? And with that being said, I was recently interviewed by a reporter from the Star Tribune. And the question that she asked me was, Andrew, if someone wants to build wealth, but they can't afford to buy a home, how can they build wealth? And what should they invest in? So what do you think I said to her? The first thing they should invest in? You can write your question in there or just think about it in your head, but the first thing that they should invest in is actually in their financial education. And she was a little surprised when I said that, but I said to her is that most people do not have a strong foundation to even build wealth on. They lose thousands and thousands of dollars every single year because they lack good financial skills. And the next thing I told her is what shocked her. I actually gave her the answer to this question, which is how much money did banks collect from overdraft fees in 2020, not including late fees or interest charges? The answer to that is $12.4 billion. Okay, this doesn't include what they got in fees or interest, just overdraft fees. So those little $25 and $35 charges add up. And that's $12.4 billion that banks had to invest that ordinary people didn't have to invest. And so I also want to highlight this because one of the ways that people overdraft is when they write checks. Those take a little bit longer for the transactions to complete. And I don't really write checks for anything else outside of my house usually. There's a lot of people that come to the house or even the city want checks written. So it's extremely important that we become good at how we manage our money and track what's in our bank accounts. All right. And what I'll say is that when I started my business, Expanding Wallet, it really started with doing virtual workshops, a lot of blog articles. And for a year after doing those virtual workshops, Instagram lives, and also informational interviews with people, I found that when it comes to finances, people lack 3 key items. And they lack knowledge, strategies, and systems, okay? And knowledge will help you make better decisions. And it's your decisions in life that will determine your destination. And strategies help you with planning. Benjamin Franklin said, if you fail to plan, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. The little earbud in my mouth. And then systems, okay? Systems are extremely important because they help you to implement your strategies and also stay on track with your financial goals. And so this year, I actually used all of that, took my 18 years of knowledge and experience to build a financial course that I did target for future homeowners. However, again, because so many people lack financial skills, even homeowners have been taking my course, multiple homeowners, okay? And so, again, just launched this year, but I'm going to show you some of the results that we've gotten so far this year. This client was living paycheck to paycheck, actually had a high income, but had high debt and almost nothing in her savings account. And when she came to me, she told me that she had a goal of saving $5,000 by the end of this year. And this is October 15th. She sent me that text saying, I'm almost there at $4,000. She'll actually probably exceed her goal of $5,000 by the end of this year. All right, client number 2. This client hadn't had a credit card and was struggling really with just getting a credit card, honestly, as far as just her mind around a credit card. Just grew up seeing her family get into huge financial debt due to credit cards. And so she was really just more so scared than anything to get a credit card. But because of some of the coaching that she got in my course, she was able to actually take her credit score from 666 to 736 within a few months, okay? That's a 70-point increase. If you don't know a whole lot about credit, just understand that that'll not only qualify you for loans, but also dictate what your interest rate is for loans. So she's going to actually save a lot of money anytime she gets loans, credit cards, or even a mortgage. And client number 3, as I mentioned, I already have had existing homeowners take the course. And this was one of them where she already owned a home, but she was worried about debt, okay? And she had never budgeted. So she's a much happier homeowner now, especially because she not only budgeted, but she found a way using one of the techniques in the course to actually pay off her debt faster and save over $4,000 in interest. I hope you are all like understanding the impact of this. And this is why when I'm asked about financial skills, I say to people that when you lack financial skills, money just slips out your hand like water, okay? And you've got to be able to catch some of that money if you want to build wealth. And so let's talk about my course, all right? Don't get scared yet by the numbers, but what the course offers. Lifetime access to on-demand videos that'll walk you through the financial empowerment toolkit. That's a system that I built to help you manage your money, debt, and credit, and also give you access to 12 live weekly sessions so that you can get your questions answered and also make sure that you're understanding the content. The next thing is that I'll do 3 live monthly workshops during that time. And these workshops focus heavily on financial matters. Sometimes I'll have other speakers come in and maybe they'll talk about loans, but also what I do is talk a lot about mindset. Your mindset really matters a lot as well when it comes to finances. And this month's workshop will be on December 29th. And that workshop will really focus on how to make 2023 your most successful financial year yet. And one of the things I'll be sharing in that workshop is how to negotiate a higher pay raise. One of the best ways to just make more money is to get paid more for what you do. I had mentioned I started out at my career underpaid by 18%, but by the end of my 3rd year, I negotiated a 30% raise, okay? A very, very useful skill to have. I'm gonna walk people through in that workshop exactly how I did it and how they can duplicate that. Now, the price of the course, okay? Obviously, let me go back here. I had kind of showed the value of the course just because of how much people will save over a lifetime. I showed you people saving thousands of dollars within the 1st year, but imagine what happens over a lifetime of that and having these skills. So the course we valued out at $5,000 almost, but you would never pay that. Honestly, I know how tough it is to come up with $5,000, especially thinking about my mom. I had her in mind when I built this course, and just knowing how much faster she could have built wealth if she knew some of the things that I teach in this course. And so the course is actually going to cost $497. We even have payment options, so as little as $175 a month for 3 months can get you in the course, and you'll learn in 3 months what school didn't teach you in 12 years. Again, all these things that I've accumulated throughout 18 years of experience. How you can register for the course. You can scan this QR code, and I'm also giving an extra 15% off with the code 15 off for those who register within the next 5 days. You can also go to the Expanding Wallet website. That is my website, where it says on there new course. You can click on that and also use that to get to the course registration page. I also have an ebook that I wrote last year. This is for eliminating debt. So if you are in debt, definitely get this ebook, giving away for free 7 strategies to eliminate your debt for good. Many people right now are struggling with debt, so definitely get a copy of that. And then lastly, feel free to connect with me on social media, Facebook, Andrew Clarke, Instagram, Mr. Generational Wealth, and my email. If you need to email me any questions, it's info@Expanding Wallet. And I'll just close with this, just to recap what I said. Home ownership is great for building wealth, but it is a huge responsibility. And not only in acquiring, but also maintaining that property. And once you do get that property, it's important that you continue to save and build wealth outside of that. Diversification is key when it comes to generational wealth. And the main reason that I do this is because honestly, I just know that for me, I know that I've started from the bottom in multiple areas of my life, academically, financially, and even in my career. And so I know what it feels like to start behind, but I also know what it takes to succeed. And so that's why I think it gives me a unique ability to help meet people where they're at, to take them where they want to go. My name is Andrew Clarke. I hope that you really got some value out of what I shared today, and that you really think about some of the things I said. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrew. One thing I'll say about Andrew's course is, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not the greatest with my hands. So if something breaks in my house, right? If my toilet breaks, I call a plumber, right? If I'm sick, I go to the doctor. If I need my driveway replaced, I'm not going to YouTube how to lay tar. I'm going to call the experts in that. And it's no different than that. You need help with your finances. You want to learn how to build wealth. Call a financial advisor, call a financial coach like Andrew, and get help. Learn from his experiences and apply them to your own life, and get that help. We're building generational wealth. Next up, we have Peter. Peter Djerf is a loan originator. He's also the CEO and founder of Custom Made Morgatges. A loan originator can make a huge difference in the next 30 years of your financial well-being. So not only do you need someone who can get you approved, even if you have a tough income or tough calculations, but you also need someone that has integrity, has your best interest in mind, and also your future financial freedom in mind. So that's a few of the things that a loan originator accomplishes for you. And I'll let Peter talk to you a little bit more about the process of buying a home.
Nick. All right. Yes, I'm Peter. I work and partner with Nick at Custom Made Mortgages. We're both loan originators. We kind of say give you a 2-for-1 deal because we work together on everything. So whether you come to him or me, like I said, we work together on all of that. So just to jump into it, kind of the process from a financial standpoint, which is kind of the less fun side, I guess, than actually going out and looking at your future home, is a lot of questions we get is like, how do I start? I had a friend or actually an old coworker that I haven't talked to since 2006 that called me last Saturday morning. And he said, hey, I'm trying to buy a house. I haven't had the greatest luck with the loan originators I've been working with. I know you, can we sit down and talk? How do I start this process? And you can do a lot of research and studying, and I'm a big proponent of that. I'm a big supporter of that, but also use your experts. Most people are going to buy 1 to 3 houses in their entire lifetime. Like I say, this industry is about a foot deep and a mile wide as far as the information goes. So come to an expert. We don't charge any upfront fees. You don't pay us till we close. Let us, look at your situation with you. We can do soft pulls on credit, things like that. So it's not going to affect those type of things, and help you put together a game plan, whether it's right now or down the road. And you know, the next thing a lot of people ask is, what do I need? And kind of coming back to the same thing, you want an expert, you want somebody that is knowledgeable. Because again, there's so much information out there. A lot of times you will talk to a family member, and that's probably one of the biggest issues we run into, is somebody that's bought a house or bought a couple houses, and they're well intended and they're trying to help them. But again, things are always changing. Guidelines are changing from underwriting, requirements are changing. So come talk to us, we'll help you. And again, we're not lawyers. We're not going to send you a bill for $300 because you called us. And so the next thing then is people are like, okay, all right, I'm talking to you. Let's put together a game plan. You know, when should I begin this process? And ideally, we say 6 to 18 months, depending on your specific situation. But that is not a requirement. You know, even with Ida, we had a client this summer that came to us. I think we closed in about, from the time they called us to the time we closed, I think it was about less than 45 days. They got me all the documents right away. We did the pre-approval, and they went out and looked at some houses. They found one that they liked right away, and we got them closed. We had one that referral Nick got this spring. I think we closed them in less than 30 days from the initial conversation. So we can do it quickly, especially if you're in a good position, but ideally we say 6 to 18 months so we can help set you up. And if there is things like credit or a down payment, or you want to use down payment assistance, we can set all those things up and put you on a course. And if you know, again, going back to like what Andrew said, if you want to learn that personal finance, you know, we can help a little bit with that. But if you really want to get, you know, a holistic understanding of that, Andrew is a great guy to work with as well. And so, you know, and then if you're already talking to us, you know, we can help you. But another question people ask is, who do I contact? Do I talk to the realtor first? And then once we find a house, do we call you? Ideally, you can talk to a realtor and they can refer you. You can talk to somebody like Andrew while you're going through his course and he can refer you. But ideally, you want to come to someone like us, a loan originator. And the reason why is because we'll help look at your situation, help get you a pre-approval letter, and then you can give that to your realtor. Because if you are going to get pre-approved to 300,000 and you start looking at $500,000 houses, it's going to kind of be depressing, because a $500,000 house probably isn't quite as nice as a $300,000 house. And you're also, your realtor, if they're really serious, they're not going to be wanting to drive around all over town and spend a whole afternoon with you looking at houses that you're not going to ultimately buy. And obviously you don't want to go through that process either. But you can go to a realtor, you can go to someone like Andrew, and you know, they know good people, so they can always refer you as well. And so, you know, the other thing people ask is, why does all this matter? Why are we, you know, talking about all these things so in depth? And these processes go a lot smoother when you work with experts, expert partners. And when we can give you accurate expectations. Again, if you think you're going to buy a $500,000 house and you only qualify for a 300,000, that's better to have that conversation up front, have accurate expectations. The other thing is, let's say you can afford the $500,000 house, but the payment is going to be more than you are comfortable with. You might be able to afford it, but it's not what you're comfortable with. That's another thing that we do in the pre-approval process, to be able to say, all right, here's where your estimated payment is going to be. So that kind of brings us to the next. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was on the other slide. All right. So that is all what I just talked about. So you can look at that really quick. Those are kind of just pretty quick summaries. All right, so beginning to end, from the financial standpoint, dreaming to own. So I'd say from a finance standpoint, the pre-approval is the most important step. We need to assess your goals, create a plan, and execute. And executing is the easiest thing to say and the hardest thing to do. But if your pre-approval is done right, and how we do things, there are pre-qualifications out there. We don't like to do those. We like to do a full pre-approval. We call it an underwriting analysis. And what that is we're going to look at your credit. We're going to look at your assets. However, you're going to use that down payment, whether it's down payment assistance, or you're going to use some of your retirement fund or money you have saved up in the bank. And then also your income. And we do specialize with self-employed and those more difficult situations. If you're in that, you know, if that's you, we've helped close loans for people. Last fall, we helped a guy who was self-employed and he had been denied by 6 banks and he was pretty much done. And he kind of just threw a Hail Mary. And it was a little bit more work, but we got him closed and he was happy ultimately. So if we do this part right, and you stick to your commitments, you know, you don't go buy a car after we do the pre-approval and get a bunch of debt or something like that, and we do our job well, then the rest of it should be pretty smooth from the financial side of things. And so we'll do the pre-approval, we'll get all that done, and then we will you know, if you're working with Ida, you guys will go look at houses, you guys will go figure out what you like, and then you'll want to put in an offer. At that point, either you or her will reach out to us or whoever your realtor is, say, hey, we need that pre-approval letter. Here's the property. And we like to go a step further in everything we do. So we'll even look up the property taxes because that varies property to property. We'll look up, you know, kind of estimate what the home insurance would be. So you can have a very good understanding what your monthly payment is for, you know, hypothetically the next 30 years before you even put in that offer. So we're not getting to closing or all of a sudden things are changing down the road after you put in the offer and you get a little bit of a sticker shock. Because that does happen sometimes. So you guys will offer, we'll verify everything like I just said, confirm it with you. And also we do what we call a call of confidence to the listing agent. And that's another thing not every loan officer does, but we like to call the listing agent who represents the sellers and say, hey, we fully vetted this buyer. We've looked at everything. We've done the underwriter analysis on the same letter that we gave you. If you have any questions, here's our contact information. We work 7 days a week. You can give us a call, send us an email, a text, however you want to reach out and talk to us just to make sure that your sellers are comfortable working with us and that our buyers are going to perform. So you guys go through that process. Like Ida had said, there's the negotiating process. Right now, it's more of a buyer's market. So you might be able to negotiate some seller concessions to help cover your closing costs. And then once that gets approved, you guys go through inspection, everything looks good. Then that's when we'll kind of assume the front lead in that process. We'll tell you, you know, we need these updated documents. If it's very soon after we've done the pre-approval, we might not need anything. If it's been a month or two, we might need like updated pay stubs or something, you know, along those lines. Get everything together, order the appraisal right away once that inspection is cleared, order the title right away, and then submit your file to underwriting. And it's not guaranteed, but a lot of times we try to submit everything as a full package to underwriting. They like that better. And I don't remember what our average on the year is for underwriting touches. I think nationally it's like in the 4 to 5 or 4 to 6 range. I think, yeah, we're right around 2 touches. So that means we submit once, they might come back with a couple other things, and then you get CTC or clear to close, which is your final approval. And that's a big step because now they'll probably do a verbal verification of employment, something like that, call your work, just make sure you didn't quit, but, or, you know, something along those lines, but otherwise you're fully approved till your closing date. And at that point, the title company and us, we will go over all your final numbers. We'll make sure everything balances. And then we always try to hit the goal of at least a week before the closing date, sitting down and saying, all right, here's all your final numbers. Here's what it was originally. Here's where you're at now, and go over as in detail as you want to. Some people like to go through every single line item. Some people like to just, you know, kind of summarize it. But we always also encourage you to ask why on everything. So every conversation we're going to ask, do you understand that? Do you have any questions? And you might have a question the next day. You might have a question at midnight. You're thinking about it. You can text us. You can call us. No guarantee we're going to answer. But, you know, you send us a text, send us an email. We'll get back to you the next day. And that's another big thing that we like to promote is our communication skills, because loan officers and loan originators don't always have the greatest reputation in that regard. So we really try to make sure we're in constant communication with you. Like I said, we work 7 days a week. And so we're always there if you need us. And then we'll close. It's a really good time. Everybody, you know, celebrate. If Ida can convince you to take some pictures, we'll take some pictures. And then you guys get your keys and everything's good to go. And then post closing, well, just talk about ourselves. We like to have this lifelong relationship with you. You never sign a contract with us. You can always leave us whenever you want to. But once we close, it's not like, okay, we got paid and you got your house and peace out. We're here for the long haul. So we still have clients call us years later asking us about, you know, I had a client call me, I think it was this spring, about a gutter issue. We couldn't do anything about it. We had to help her call somebody else that could. But, you know, the fact that she was even comfortable calling us and just saying, I don't know what to do. Can you help me? We talked to her a little bit. Ida helped her and she's able to get that taken care of. So we're always here. No matter how big or small the issue is, customer service is a huge thing for us. We're a small company, it matters, and we like to help. So kind of, and feel free to ask questions in the chat and we can answer those near the end, but a lot of the frequently asked questions we get are, do you need a 20% down payment? And I would say, just to kind of back up, probably one of the biggest things that prohibits people from buying a house is having incorrect assumptions. A lot of people think, oh, you need 20% down. That's not required. if you qualify, we can go down as low as 3%. FHA 3.5%, conventionals 3%. But then there's also USDA loans that are more in rural areas. There's military veterans and current military they have a 0% down payment option. So there's a lot of things we can do. And again, if you come to us, we can help plan these things out and say, here's the type of mortgage, here's why this benefits you. And if you've done your research and you say, well, I read about this is a really good idea, we can walk you through either why that would be a good idea or why it wouldn't. Another big thing is closing costs and escrow. And most people just call this closing costs because the escrow is part of it. But I like to point that out. These are one-time fees, property taxes, and home insurance. The one-time fees, those are things you pay to the title company, you pay to the government, you pay to us, you pay to the realtor, all those things. And then if you're escrowing, which means every month your property taxes and your insurance are divided by 1/12, since we have 12 months in the year. And then the bank collects that. There's no fee for it. It's a free service, but that keeps your monthly payment the same. And then when those things are due, your property tax in Minnesota are due twice a year. Insurance, if you pay the yearly premium to get the better deal, that's due once a year. The lender collects 1/12 every month as part of your payment. So you pay the same amount for 12 months. And then when those are due, they pay them for you. So you don't have to worry about it. So we estimate, usually industry-wide, they say like 2.5% to 5%. We usually say about 3%. We can usually keep it underneath that. But part of that is influenced by property taxes, how much we have to collect and when those are due. Another thing is, what is mortgage insurance and, why do I have to pay it? Mortgage insurance is actually a really good thing. Before we had this, you did need 20% down. So that's where that idea comes from. But banks said and the government also got a little involved and they said, we want to make housing more affordable. How do we do this? Well, banks, they don't like to take risks. They lend money to make money. And so they came up with this policy that says, okay, you pay every month on this policy. And this is influenced by credit. If you have really good credit, you'll get a much better mortgage insurance rate than somebody who doesn't have very good credit. But if you want to put 3, 5, 10, 15% down, then you pay for this policy that helps protect the lender in case you were to foreclose on the property and stop making your payments and they had to take that back. And then another thing, I use the word expert a lot, is why is the emphasis on expert? What is this just like a self-glorification? You like to call yourself an expert? No, this is one of the biggest financial decisions in your life. You want to go to somebody who knows. And if they don't know, they're going to figure it out for you ahead of time, not, a week, 2 weeks before closing, calling you up and saying, oh, you got another $5,000 you got to bring to closing, because that has happened before. We want to give you the best process possible. We don't want it to be stressful. We want everything to be planned out, and we want it to go as planned. That's the whole reason for our pre-approval process the way that it is. And then another thing people ask is, when do I pay you? I kind of talked about that earlier, but we get paid when you get your keys. So if you don't close, we don't get paid. And we like to say this, putting our actions with our words. We're not collecting upfront fees. We could do that and put them in an escrow account and do all sorts of things like that. We don't do that. The one thing, just to be clear, that you do pay for ahead of time once you get an accepted offer is the appraisal. That's usually for single family home between $500 and $600. That doesn't go to us, that goes to the appraiser, just like the inspection. We got to pay them. But as far as our fees go, we don't collect a dime until you actually close and you get that house. So that's kind of the main thing. And then I guess one other thing I'd mention is we are a mortgage broker. We're not a bank. We're not a lender. And the benefits from that, there are many. I would say one of the biggest things is if you come to us, we're going to do your pre-approval. Every bank has a certain limited number of options. They all have kind of their focus of what they want to lend to. We can help you in that regard and say, person A, okay, this bank would be the best fit for your situation. Person B, this bank over here. If you go straight to a lender or straight to a bank or a credit union, they have kind of what they offer and that's it. And if you don't fit, they either got to kind of force it or they're going to deny you. So we have a lot more flexibility. We even do non-QM loans, which are more for self-employed people who have a lot of cash flow in their business and things like that, but write off. So we can help with that. And then I also saw a stat last week that the Association of Independent Mortgage Experts, it's an advocacy group for mortgage brokers, sent out saying that on average, mortgage brokers save over $10,000 for minority borrowers versus banks and almost approve them at twice the rate. So and we could get more into statistics and details. Feel free, call Nick, call myself, email us, text us, however you want to reach out. but we can go more in depth in these things, but there's a lot of ways we can save you money. We pride ourselves on that. We like to help people. So I would like to work with people like Ida, people like Andrew, because this is not just about how many people can we get in and get out and get paid. This is, you know, about treating people well, helping you realize your dream of home ownership, and also that building that generational wealth you can pass on to your kids. So I think that's about it.
Thank you, Peter. One quick thing I wanted to touch on with what Peter said is he kept mentioning underwriter analysis for pre-approvals. And what that means is that we calculate the income, everything that's in the transaction the same way that the underwriters will. So that when we submit a file, it doesn't scream red flag, it screams green, let all systems go. And he probably undersold how fast we can be, but that's part of our speed, and the reason that we don't get people denied and we close quickly is because we do a full underwriter analysis, calculating all your financial documents the same way that the underwriters do. So coming up next, we have Ben with his own insurance agency. I believe it's the Beneyam.retta insurance agency. And insurance is a mandatory component of owning a home. It protects you against loss. It protects you against, you know, some natural disasters, theft, all sorts of different things that he's going to talk to you about. Peter talked about escrows. Your insurance typically gets escrowed, so you pay 1/12 of the premium with every single mortgage payment, and that's why it's important to have a policy that covers the current and future value of your home while still having a low annual premium, so that your monthly payment, that mortgage payment, doesn't get too high. So Ben, take it away.
Thank you, Nick. Can you guys hear me? All right. First of all, I want to say thank you to Ida and everybody for hosting this event. Even me being in this business, joining a group like this and being on events like this, I learned a lot just sitting here. So now that you generated your loan through Peter, got the house through Ida, kept your house through what Andrew said. Now, what do you have? You have this big thing that you just spent so much money on. You want to make sure you properly insure it. And you bought the house today. Most mortgages are 15, 30 years that you're going to be in. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about just specifically about the homeowners insurance. I like how Peter specifically talked about mortgage insurance. Some people come to me and say, hey, I'm paying this much. What is this? I didn't sign up for this. But they're talking about the mortgage insurance, not the homeowners insurance itself. So a little bit about myself. My name is Ben.Retta. I'm the owner of Retta Insurance Agency. I'm an independent insurance agent. So basically what that means is once I get your information from somebody like Peter or Ida, I shop around what best fits you, make sure that you're with the right carrier for the right amount of price. And you got to make sure that you have the proper amount of coverage. So let's talk about homeowners insurance. We'll be covering about exactly before that, what is insurance? Why do we need homeowners insurance? Also, what's covered and what's not covered, as well as what are the must-have things on a homeowner's insurance. So anytime you deal with first home, second home, even your existing home, you want to make sure we have these things in place in case something happens. So what is insurance? Peter talked about mortgage insurance, and he explained exactly what that is. Insurance, just in broad term, is just transferring the risk. If you have a $500,000 home, if you have $500,000 sitting somewhere, technically you don't need insurance. But if something did happen, and instead of using that $500,000 you have sitting around, you want to pay $1,000, $2,000, whatever it is, actually save that money. The risk is basically you're transferring it to somebody else, so you don't have to use your own assets. Why do we need homeowners insurance? Everybody in here touched on it. A homeowner, or being a homeowner, is one of, if not the only like your biggest purchase of your lifetime. Especially for first-time home buyers. Like Andrew, you're investing in other properties, you're gonna get more and more, but just in general, a homeowner, especially your first one, is the biggest thing they're gonna buy. And you wanna make sure that that's covered properly, and if something did happen, it'll be replaced. So main components in terms of homeowners policies. When we started, Ida talked about what kind of homes you wanna buy. When it comes to insurance, in terms of home ownership, these are the basic ones. So today I'm going to talk about just a broad. I'm not going to get in details of it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. But I'm just going to give you highlights of what's in a homeowner's policy, what should be in it, and what do those things mean, just on high level. So in general, there are an HO3, HO6, HO4, DP3. What do these numbers mean, or what do they mean? HO3 is your single family home. An HO4 is a renter's policy. An HO6 is a condo policy. A DP3 is a rental dwelling policy. All these policies have different coverage within them, but most of them have the same components within them as well. So I'm going to talk about today, just to keep everything simple, we're going to talk about a single family dwelling, meaning just a structure from down all the way to the top. On all homeowners policies, so HO3s, single family home, you have coverage A. Coverage A is your dwelling, meaning from the ground up. So if your house would burn down to the ground, what would it take to get it back up to where it is today in today's market? Pay attention to this on every homeowner's policy. On coverage A, you should have, or you should see something that says replacement cost. Most insurance companies do cash value as well as replacement cost. You want to make sure you have replacement cost. I'll explain exactly what that means and what the two differences. Not just replacement cost, extended replacement cost should be also on that policy somewhere. If you're reviewing your policies, make sure that's there. Second one is coverage B. That's other structures. That's usually 10% of your dwelling. If you have a shed in the back, if you build something in the back, or you store things, anything that's not connected to the main home, that's where this coverage lies. Coverage C is personal property. If you think of your home, take the roof off, turn it upside down, whatever falls out of there is considered personal property. Again, with personal property, you want to make sure you have replacement cost on personal property as well. You wouldn't want to get a depreciated value of your personal property. Let's say you bought a TV, 10 years ago, and something happened to it or get stolen, you have to replace it. You wouldn't want to get a value of a TV that's 10 years old. That is nothing in today's market. As opposed to if you have a replacement cost, as you should, you'll get a brand new TV. If you have a 55-inch, as an example, they'll go out and buy you a brand new TV, or they'll give you the money for equivalent to that. Next one is coverage B, and this additional expenses or additional living. So what this is, a claim happened with your insurance, whether it's, burnt down or some kind of damage and you can't live in it. Insurance companies will pay for you to stay in a hotel that's accommodated to your living situations as is right now. Some people get really nervous about when homeowners insurance asks, hey, how many people live in the house? What would you want to know? I'm buying the house. I'm taking the risk. The reason they ask that is if something like this happens, if it's just you're the only one they know about, they'll cover your costs. But what are you going to do with your family? So you want to make sure be upfront and forward with everything. It doesn't harm you if you say, unless you say there's like 50 people living in the house, that is a risk for the insurance company. But if it's me, my wife, my kids, aunt, uncle that's living with me, let them know. You'd be better off that way than something happened. Hey, we're going to pay for you. We don't know who these people are. Then we have liability coverage. This one's also very big. An example of this would be if you have a tree on your property, or most people nowadays have trampolines, which most insurance companies say no to. Let's take the tree as an example. If that tree falls on your neighbor's home, or if you have a dog and your dog bit somebody, this is the coverage that pays for you being sued. Or if your neighbor comes in and say, hey, half my house is gone. You want to make sure that since the tree's on your property, you're liable for that. Make sure your liability limits is where it needs to be. You don't have to be a doctor to be sued like a doctor or an engineer. Everybody, as long as when people hear there's insurance in play, they'll come after you. We see day in, day out. So you want to make sure you have, and it's not that expensive. In terms of all these coverages I talked about so far, the one that's most costly is your coverage A, which is your dwelling. And then medical payments, this is if I come to your house, slip and fall, you're kind of, before I can sue you or anything like that, you want to make sure you have medical coverage. Usually it's $5,000, $10,000. This will pay for my medical bills because I fell on your property. So these are a list of things that are covered on most homeowners policies. We can go through them, but anytime you deal with a homeowner's insurance, specifically talk to your agent, say, hey, is this covered? Is this covered? Is this covered? We can never have a list of things that are covered because there's some things that are not on here that are going to be, could come up, and then you're going to say, hey, some insurance companies will cover it, but they will talk to you about it. Instead of talking about what's covered, let's talk about what's not covered. So most people think that flood, or if a water comes in the house, that's somewhere in your policy is covered. It's not. Flood is its own policy. Luckily, where we're at here in Dakota County or Minnesota, we're not in a flood zone. But there's some areas. So when you talk to your realtor or talk to Peter, when you find a property, you want to make sure that there's nothing wrong buying a home on a flood zone, as long as it's the property that you want. You just want to make sure that you have flood insurance. That's its own policy. You have your homeowner's policy, a flood insurance policy that's on its own. But your normal HO3 policy does not cover flood. Earthquake, it's pretty self-explanatory here in Minnesota that we don't have to pay for earthquake coverage, but it is available. We probably don't need it here, but I used to work in all 50 states, and it's mandatory in California. Just like the flood insurance, this is its own policy. Act of war is not covered. Obviously, if the country's at war and people start bombing things, insurance companies will not cover that. And any kind of nuclear explosion is not covered on any kind of homeowners policy. Let's hope that never happens, because I would not be talking about any insurance if that happens. So to finish off, what are must-have on a policy? So if you take anything away from what I have to say, I know it's gonna have been a long night, but take these things on your homeowner's policy, your existing one or in your future home. You want to make sure you have replacement costs, not cash value, and extended. So the difference between what those two are, replacement cost is if your house burns down to the ground today, what would it take to build it back up to in today's market? So insurance companies use what's called RCE. It's what they use for reconstruction value of your home. So they know exactly how much a 2x4 cost, how much a 2x4 sold yesterday, the day before yesterday, last week, what labor is going. So all these numbers get calculated into the replacement cost of your home. If you don't have replacement cost, and let's say you have your house insured for $350,000 when you bought the house, and you have just cash value home policy, and 3 years down the road something happened, or your house burns down, storm came through, wiped everything out, an insurance company will be so happy to just say, yep, We have you insured at $350. Here's the check. We're out. It's so much easier for them to do that. But if you have replacement costs and they have you insured at, 500,000, they will go up to that. And you want to have extended. Why you want to have the extended part is if we're in this big neighborhood and a tornado came through here, it's not gonna come and attack Ben's house only. It's gonna wipe off everything. What does that do? Replacement cost and material goods, labor, everything goes up. So even though we have your house insured for $350,000, that 350 is not gonna be enough because my neighbor's gotta get his house fixed, that person's gotta get his house fixed. So you wanna have additional, usually it's 1.25, so 125%. So you have a little cushion if anything like that does happen. Another thing with homeowners insurance policy, deductibles. You gotta make sure you know what your deductibles are. 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 percentage. So if you ever have a percentage deductible, just know that that's gonna go up as your dwelling goes up every year. If you have a 2% deductible, that 2% is being calculated out of your dwelling. Your dwelling increases every year. I know Aida talked about it and Peter talked about it. They want to, keep your mortgage payment consistent. One thing that will skew is taxes for sure. I've never seen my taxes go down. Another thing in my realm of work, two things that are guaranteed: death and taxes. But I'll add homeowners insurance. I've never seen a homeowners insurance go down in terms of year to year because your dwelling increased. Your insurance company will adjust to that. So just know that your escrow might ask for, hey, we paid this much for insurance, so you need to bump that up. So when you're planning and budgeting going forward, most likely you're not going to have the same amount of insurance policy for 30 years, but even if you did every year, most likely that'll go up. That is homeowners in a nutshell. So if you guys have any questions in regards to your current homeowners policy or in the future, feel free to get a hold of me, Aida. I'll be more than happy to review your current policies as well as your future home. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ben. And if you do have any questions that Ben can answer for you tonight, make sure to put those in the chat. Before I introduce our last speaker and then go to our Q&A session, I just want to put a little plug out there that everyone who spoke tonight is a small business owner, okay? So that means a couple things. One is it means that they have their reputation and their sphere of influence, and that's it. So these are highly, highly professional people, experts in their fields, who aren't going to take advantage of you, they're going to take care of you. But what else it means is that your business matters to us. Okay, it matters to our employees, it matters to our families. And I just want to thank you in advance for working with us. I want to thank you for considering to work with us, because when you support a small business and that American dream, not only do you sustain us, sustain our families, you also sustain our employees and their families. So thank you for that. Lastly, we got Erica, and she works for Burnet Title Agency. And working with a good title agent can make your closings fast and smooth. And we've had nothing but good experiences with Burnet. So we have Erica here to talk to us about what to expect from your title agency.
Thank you. Thank you. Hopefully I can do this without moving anything here. All right, so I'm Erica.Bonner with Burnet Title. I'm a business account executive, and what I do is I build relationships, and I build relationships with our agents, with our mortgage loan officers, and also just work hand in hand with each of the different types of businesses and representatives that you heard from already today, really to make things go smoothly. We have a really wonderful group of closers and closing coordinators who are at your service I know that in working with Ida, Bonnie Anderson is one of our closers who she's worked with numerous times. And I know that they have built a really wonderful relationship. And I know that when you do choose to work with Ida, that she's going to lead you in the right direction. And so that's one of the things that when we look at building relationships, it's, you know, you look at the genuineness of the person. And I can say that just for the time that I've known Ida and worked with her team, her husband, they have been absolutely wonderful to work with and very knowledgeable. So everyone here is a trusted individual. And so the information that you get, you just want to make sure you hold on to it. Now, Ben already went through some of what I would have covered as well on title insurance. But just to give you a little bit of information too on what title is. Title is really just a legal term that refers to the ownership of something. And that something in this case is referring to your property. And so when your property or when you own a property and are entitled with that property, that basically means that you are the one that's responsible for it. You are taking full responsibility for anything that happens to it, anything that happens on the property. You are also the person that, as Ben mentioned, if something were to happen, they're going to come to you, they're going to talk to you, whomever that they may be, okay? If you have a party at your home or if you have guests in your home and something happens, you are the responsible party because you are the person entitled. Now, that also just gives you the legal right to the property overall. So you're in control, you are the owner. So who can hold title? Well, anybody can hold title. That could be an individual. It can be a couple. It can also be a married couple, an unwed couple, people like you and me. We can be entitled. Corporations can be entitled, partnerships, organizations and trusts. So, and those are, those just mean that there's multiple people who have rights of ownership. So now the next step is, as we've already heard, having title insurance is very important. What our team will do when you're meeting with a closer from Burnet Title, one of the things that they're going to do is they're going to look at all aspects of that property. They are going to do a title search. That just basically means that they're just trying to make sure everything is clear for you to close. Now, unless you're buying a property that is a new construction that you have already said, hey, I'm building the property, this is going to be it, you don't have any previous owners. In many cases, there are individuals who buy properties who have had several owners throughout the years. And so when that happens, there are a lot of, you know, sometimes there are things that are left undone. There are deeds that have not been recorded. There may have been a lien on the property that did not get released. So there are so many different things that take place. And those are the things that our title team will take time to go through to make sure that you are clear to close. And the other thing is, of course, with making such a big investment, then we definitely will guide you towards looking at title insurance. And whether you get the title insurance from Burnet Title or from other sources, you just want to make sure that you are that you're looking at it from the standpoint of you are insuring that property. You want to make sure that you are completely covered from all aspects. I'm going to just share a little video with you about that, and we'll be right back.
Property loss or damage. Places or defects of the title of the property. Each title insurance policy is subject to specific terms and exclusions. Title defects can be serious, time-consuming, and expensive, and can even result in loss of ownership. If you have title insurance, your insurer will pay for defending against an attack on title and will either protect the title or pay valid claims, all for a one-time charge of posting. Residential properties often have a long history of previous ownership. Even after a thorough title examination has been conducted, hidden risks and undiscovered interests can emerge, such as errors in public records, unknown meanings, missing heirs, forgeries. Any of these issues can preclude an owner from having free and clear ownership of a property and prevent them from transferring ownership. In today's climate, where fraud and foreclosures are commonplace, title insurance offers peace of mind. Lenders require protection against title defects. If the home buyer is borrowing money, the lender will want to protect its investment and require the purchase of the lender's title insurance. A home purchase is one of the biggest investments a person will make during their lifetime. Shouldn't that investment be protected?
Okay, so that was just a little bit about just making sure that you are covered through insurance and that insurance is of all types. The other thing I'll just share just briefly here is we talked a little bit earlier about the closing process and what happens at the closing table. We are our team is really there to help you get to that closing table with ease and also pretty quickly. So some of the things that I'll just make sure I mention is when it comes down to closing, having the proper identification is what's going to, also be required. So in addition to, bringing in the certified check, but having the proper identification so that you can be identified for notary purposes and such, having your social security information, just everything that identifies who you are as an individual. And then also working with your realtor. When you work with your realtor will give you all of the information up front. Then you are contacted by the title team, because then the title team will come in and they will set the closing date. They will also give you instructions. They will never send out any information to you for wiring instructions without letting you know. So make sure that that is something that you want to be certain that you're not sending money to the wrong places. We have seen that happen time and time again, where someone has their email has been intercepted and they have received information that looked like it came from the title company. They were told to, hey, we no longer need you to bring a check. We want you to wire funds. And when those situations happen, if you have to have the right mindset to say, hey, you know what? My closer said that they will send me the information and I need to look for a trusted email address. Let me pick up the phone and call. Sometimes it happens where they don't call and money can get transferred where it doesn't need to go. It is also very difficult to get that money back once it has been sent. So just something to keep in mind. And I'm going to close on that note because I don't want to go too far into what will potentially be our next segment. So thank you so much. Again, I'm Erica.Bonner with Burnet Title. We appreciate the opportunity to be here and stand before all of you. Again, Bonnie Anderson is our closer for this particular location. We do have a multitude of closers, but any questions that you may have, please contact me and we'll be more than happy to help you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Erica. So we did have one question in the chat that was for Peter. If anybody else has any questions that they need answered, go ahead and put those in the chat now, but I will kick this first question to Peter. Peter, the question is it beneficial to wait for the Fed pivot to enter the real estate market? So I'll let you take it away.
All right, yeah, I would say that's kind of a loaded question, because predicting the future is very difficult. I reference Charlie Munger, who is partnered with at Berkshire Hathaway, with probably the kind of the god of investing. But he just said recently, he's like, trying to predict the future is a losing game. So and to kind of give you an example, I had a client a few weeks ago, or probably about a month and a half ago now, that, you know, it seemed like the Fed was going to continue to raise the rate. And quick disclaimer, the Fed does not directly influence, like causal influence of the mortgage rates. Right now, they do have a lot more influence on it, but they do not have, you know, they raise theirs. It doesn't mean mortgage rates go up directly tied to that. It's how it influences the market. And right now, the Fed has a massive amount of influence on the market. So it seems like that, but it's usually through other correlative factors. But anyway, so she was looking to buy and sometime this winter, but she decided that she wanted to, and again, nobody knows the future. This might have, in hindsight, this might have ended up being a very smart idea. But she wanted to buy before the December meeting. So, and actually, I think before the last meeting. So she got locked in a rate. Rate was pretty good. However, at the last meeting, they decided that they're actually going to slow down a little bit. And so all of a sudden, the interest rates dropped quite a bit. And it was one of the largest drops in the last 20 years. And so she still got a good rate. It wasn't like it was the worst thing in the world, but again, trying to predict the future and thinking, oh, it's going to go up again, and we got to lock this thing before then, it didn't end up working out. So I'd say don't let that be your determining factor. The other thing is, personally, I think this is a good time to buy because it's a buyer's market. You can get seller concessions a lot of times where they help pay your closing costs, and that's real money. So if they give you $6,000 towards your closing costs, that's $6,000 that you don't have to spend. That's real money. That's not, you know, a game. The other thing is you can date the rate, so to speak, and get the house. If you get the house now, I mean, a year ago, people were I had a client that kept putting $40,000, $50,000 over the asking price. And that's money that cannot get financed. So that's extra money you have to bring. You have to have that cash on top of your down payment and your closing costs. And so he's putting down 40, 50,000 over the asking price and still not getting the house. Finally, we got him one. But now in this market, people are getting seller concessions up to 3% for conventional loans. If you're putting down a large down payment, you can go up to 9% sometimes. And there's a lot of factors, but also the interest rates, and again, nobody knows the future, full disclaimer, but sorry, oh, you're good. So full disclaimer, nobody knows the future, but if the rates do drop in a year or 2 years or 3 years, we can refinance you to a better rate, but you can't refinance to a better purchase price. And so I think that's a key understanding. And we do have like these buy down programs too. So if you're getting seller concessions or you want to put money towards it, well, you can buy down your rate for the first couple of years. And, you know, even if the interest rates drop before that program's over, any money that's still in that program gets transferred to pay down your principal, so you don't lose a dime. So there's a lot of things like that. So I'd say if you're primed and ready to buy, and this is kind of what's holding you up, talk to us. Let's put something together, look at what your payment would be, look at what the interest rate would be. We can look at the down, you know, that buy down program as well. But you can refinance, and, you know, if you look historically, usually rates drop every 5 to 10 years, at least somewhat. So, and right now we're the highest it's been since 2008. So it's going to drop, which just when. So, you know, even if you pay this the next 5 years and you want to be comfortable with that payment again, that's huge. But I would not expect that these rates stay for 30 years. It's never happened like that. If it did, it would be the first time ever. And just, that's not even considered an option in the industry. It's just kind of when that happens. So again, if that's what's holding you up, talk to us. Let's put something together, show you what it would look like. And it might not be as bad as you think. A lot of clients, including our own brother, who had owned 2 houses in the past, kept putting it off, finally talked to us this spring and was like, okay, well, let's at least start the process, and realized he could afford, he was comfortable with the payment he could get. He could afford the house that he wanted, and he ended up actually buying right then, like very soon after. So, you know, there's a lot of misconceptions. Talk to us, let us filter through that for you. And if you don't want to do it and you want to wait, then so be it, but at least you know and you have that peace of mind. So,
Beautiful. Hey, one thing to, with the refinancings is, we can do custom refinances anywhere from 8 to 30 years. So if you do refinance at a better rate, you're not gonna have to necessarily lose term on if you pay 3 years off and then you get that 27 years. So that's important to keep that in mind. One more thing from you, Peter, is you mentioned escrows, but can you explain what those are in layman's terms?
yeah, so an escrow account in this case, an escrow account is an account you put money, that you hold money in. So in this case, when you're escrowing your property taxes and your insurance, you have your loan payment, which is your principal and interest. You pay that every month. That, in a fixed rate mortgage, that does not change over 30 years. And you know, you're doing a 30-year term, 10, 20-year term, whatever it is. The, as Ben had mentioned, your property taxes will probably go up at some point or continually over that time. Your insurance will probably go up if the value of your home is going up and things like that. So those can go up. So with a home, when you buy it, and we have the option, you can do the escrow or not. We usually encourage people, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, to do an escrow account because you don't have a lot of experience in this area. If you're highly detailed with your finances, okay. Otherwise, it's a lot easier. So let's say your property taxes are $3,600 a year, 12 months, that's $300 a month. So let's say your mortgage payment, just making up numbers, let's say your mortgage payment, the principal and interest is $1,500 a month. So you know that's what you're paying. If your property taxes are $3,600 and let's say you only escrow your property taxes, then we add that $300 to your $1,500 payment. So every month you'd pay $1,800 to the lender. And then when those property taxes are due, Minnesota, it's twice a year. So it's usually April, May, and then usually around October. The lender will send that payment ahead of time. They always make sure it's on time because to them, it's very important it's paid as well, because otherwise the government can actually take your house if it goes that far. But that escrow account, you pay in every month that extra $300 and then they put that in an account. And then when those things are due, they pay them. So usually we'll escrow property taxes and insurance. So let's say your insurance is $2,400 a year. So that's $200. Your property tax is $3,600 a year. So that's $300 a month. So it's $500 for your escrow account. So if your payment's $1,500, your escrow combined is $500, then you'll be paying $2,000 every month to your mortgage company. And then when those bills are due, they will pay them for you and then they will let you know. Now, and you also might get something from, especially for property taxes, from the government saying, hey, this is due. You can double check with your lender, but it is in their best interest to make sure that this is paid as well, both the insurance, because if you don't have insurance, they're not going to get paid if your house burns down either. And so their best interest, your best interest, it's free and they offer it to you as a service to you to help you. And it's also helps ensure their investment in your property, in your loan. Sound good? All right. Thank you, guys.
All right, well, I didn't see any other questions in the chat, so we are going to wrap this up. I want to thank everybody who attended online, as well as